What is love? No, this is not some question that you answer in your slam book during your teenage years or some cheesy definition of love that you post on your social media account. Now, the reason why we're even talking about this is because I've heard many times that agapeo and phileo, which are translated in English as love, are quite different from one another. They say that agapeo is the highest form of love because this describes the kind of love that God has, godly love, while phileo is merely brotherly love. And I'm here to tell you that this is not quite accurate. So, in this episode, rather than to simply look at the word meanings, why don't we take a look at how the words agapeo and phileo are actually used in the New Testament? And the first thing that we need to understand is that agapeo and phileo are actually verbs, while the word agape is a noun. See, agape is used to describe the love of God for his son, for his people, and to mankind in general. It is also used to declare the very nature of God, which is love. It is used to describe the fruit of the Spirit. It is also used to describe the love feast or the Lord's Supper. Now, agapeo, on the other hand, is a verb. It simply means to love. It is neutral. The reason why it's neutral because it can be applied to something good or something undesirable, as you will see in the examples later on. Now, Nancy Missler, who was the late wife of the late Chuck Missler, explains this I think, very clearly. Now, she says, it means to totally give ourselves over to something, to be totally consumed with it, or to be totally committed to it. In other words, to agapeo something means to bind ourselves to it so that we become almost one with it. We also found out that this commitment love can be to something good or something bad. Can be used either to God, to man, or to things of the world. Now, the reason why I'm stressing this out, it's because I hear a common mistake being preached in John chapter 21. Now, let me just refresh you on what this John chapter 21, verse 15 to 19 is all about. Let me read it to you. Then, when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these do? He replied, Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Jesus told him, Feed my lambs. Verse 16, Jesus said a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He replied, Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Jesus told him, Shepherd my sheep. Now, if you actually take a look at the Greek words that they use, Jesus actually used the word agapeo, while Peter used the word phileo in both occasions, in both instances. Now, Jesus is going to ask him the third time in verse 17. Let me just read it to you. It says, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was distressed that Jesus asked him a third time, Do you love me? And said, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus replied, Feed my sheep. Now, this time, both Peter and the Lord Jesus used the same word for love. Jesus no longer used the word agapeo, but instead, he uses the word phileo, just like Peter did. Now, some commentators make a big deal out of this by saying that Jesus lowered his expectation of Peter by using the word phileo. Jesus was sort of meeting Peter at his level. But this is not true, as I will demonstrate later. You see, what Jesus is hammering down was whether Peter would totally devote himself to loving Jesus, right? And the reason why it's mentioned three times is because Peter denied him three times. Jesus was not trying to lower down his expectation or trying to meet Peter at his level. The simple fact is, agapeo and phileo can be used interchangeably. Now, look at what ESV explains, how ESV explains this in their commentary. Peter has denied Jesus 3 times. Now, Jesus asked Peter 3 times to reaffirm his love for him. Then he recommissions him. See, now, do you love me more than these probably means, do you love me more than these other disciples do? In these three questions and answers, Peter uses the same word for love all 3 times, which is the Greek word phileo, but Jesus uses a different verb for love. In the first 2 questions, Jesus uses the Greek word agapao and then switches to Peter's word phileo in the third question. Now, the two words are often used interchangeably. Peter is grieved because Jesus kept asking him if he loved him. Now, here's an interesting comment from Mounce's dictionary concerning, now this time, the word phileo. Now, phileo is the common word in classical Greek for showing love, affection, and hospitality. In other words, it comes with it comes in English in many words such as Philadelphia, city of the brotherly love. Now, to make firm distinction between phileo love and agapeo love is incorrect, for the meanings of the two words overlap. The same word phileo can also mean kiss. Now, see, my point is, rather than overemphasizing the meaning of the Greek words, we should just read it and interpret the message in its proper context. Now, I understand that some people may want to increase the impact of the message. I get that. To make it more inspiring somehow. And some just want to sound probably more intelligent by using the Greek word. But I think reading it in English in most cases is more than enough to convey the real message. Context is not merely based on word meanings. Most of the time, you need to zoom out of the word and see the whole picture. In many cases, we need to check entire sentences, sometimes paragraphs, sometimes even the whole chapter or multiple chapter, sometimes even multiple books in the Bible to understand what the writers really mean. See, now let me show you some examples of how the word phileo is used in the New Testament. John chapter 5 verse 20, it says here, "For the Father loves the Son and shows him everything he does." The word used here for love is actually phileo. This word is used to describe the Father's love for the Son. Now, if this is a lower type of love, does this mean the Father is showing less love to Jesus? Of course not. John chapter 11, verse 3, it says here, "So the sister sent a message to Jesus, 'Lord, look, the one you love is sick.'" Now, the word love here used is phileo, and this is referring to Lazarus. Now you go 2 verses, just 2 verses, you'll read in verse 5, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus." So immediately in this verse, the word agapeo is used for love. So it is used interchangeably. It is the word agapeo here is used to describe Jesus' love for the siblings, which includes Lazarus. But in verse 3, he uses the word phileo to to describe the kind of love that Jesus has for Lazarus. So this is not conflicting, but it only means that you can interchange them in the way that they're used. John chapter 16, verse 27, it says here, "For the Father himself loves you because you have loved me." Both instances, it uses the same word phileo. Obviously, John was not saying that the Father's love for the believers is less. No, it's not saying that, it's a lower form of love. Revelation chapter 3, verse 19, it says here, "All those I love, I rebuke and discipline." Here, Jesus is using the word phileo to describe his love or how he loves his church. Does this mean that he loves his church in a phileo way, which is in a lower sense? It just doesn't make sense, right? Now, the word phileo can also be used in a derogatory sense. Matthew chapter 6 verse 5, it says here, whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, because they love to pray while standing in synagogues and on street corners so that people can see them. See, this is used in a derogatory sense. It's the same word used. The same word used here for love is phileo. Same goes with Matthew chapter 23 verse 6. They love the place of honor and banquets and the best seats in the synagogue. It's also the word phileo, right? This could not be brotherly love because this is derogatory. It's something negative being communicated here about the kind of love that they have, right? John chapter 12, verse 25. The one who loves his life destroys it, and the one who hates his life in this world guards it for eternal life. Again, you see the word phileo. Now, if you interpret this phileo as brotherly love, then that wouldn't make sense because the context here is selfish. It's a selfish kind of love, right? To love yourself, right? Now, Luke chapter 22, verse 47, it says here, while he was still speaking, suddenly a crowd appeared, and the man named Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He walked up to Jesus to kiss him. The word kiss here is using the same word phileo in the Greek. Now, what about the word agapeo? John 3:16, which everybody knows, for this is the way God loved the world. Or some of your translations might say, for God so loved the world. The same word, love, use is agapeo. So this is a typical usage of the word agapeo, but it can also be used in a derogatory sense, just like John chapter 12, verse 43. For they loved praise from men more than praise from God. 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 9 to 10 says here, make every effort to come to me soon, for Demas deserted me, since he loved the present age. It's the same word, agapeo. Now, you couldn't say that this agapeo is godly love towards the present age. It just doesn't make sense, right? Luke chapter 11, verse 43. Woe to you, Pharisees! You love the best seats in the synagogues and elaborate greetings in the marketplaces. Again, the word agapeo, love the best seats in the synagogues. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 15. By forsaking the right path, they have gone astray because they followed the way of Balaam son of Bozer, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. 1 John chapter 2:15, it says here, do not love the world or the things in this world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. You see there? Do not love is agapeo, the world, or the things in this world. If anyone agapeo, the world, the agape of the Father is not in him. So again, I know we want to make an impact in our message. I know that we want to, you know, we want to we want to try to make it clearer to the people who are listening. But in this case, phileo and agapeo are simply verbs. These are verbs to show love, devotion, or affection to something. It is different from agape, which is the noun. So I hope this video helps. And if you do find this helpful, I would appreciate if you like, share, and subscribe or comment. Until next time, God bless.